Tonight, we are going to travel far back in time. Not into battle, not into chaos, not into the noise of kings shouting orders or armies crossing the sand. Tonight, we are going to enter ancient Egypt, quietly. We will arrive at the edge of the River Nile as the sun begins to sink behind the western desert. We will listen to the water move against the reeds. We will watch small boats drift home in the fading light. We will walk near temple walls warmed by the day's heat. And we will pass through streets where the smell of bread, incense, lotus oil, and desert dust still lingers in the air. This is a story about temples, perfume, tombs, and the River Nile. It is about the ordinary details of life in a world that often feels larger than life. Ancient Egypt is remembered for pyramids, golden masks, and powerful pharaohs. But it was also a place of quiet courtyards, evening meals, small lamps, linen clothing, river breezes, painted walls, sleeping children, working hands, and people looking up at the same stars we see today. So settle in. Let the room around you grow still. Let the day loosen its grip. And allow this story to carry you gently into the night. Before we begin, if you enjoy calm journeys through the past, consider subscribing to Historic Sleep Stories. It helps the channel grow, and it lets you return whenever you want another quiet walk through history. And if there is a time, place, mystery, empire, or forgotten corner of the ancient world you would like to hear about next, leave it in the comments. Your suggestions help shape the next story. Now, let us begin. The sun is low over Egypt. It rests near the edge of the western desert. Round, copper-coloured, softened by a thin veil of dust in the evening air. Its light stretches across the water, turning the River Nile into a long path of gold. The river moves slowly tonight, not because it is weak, not because it is tired, but because the Nile has never needed to hurry. It has carried boats, silt, grain, fish, prayers, stories, and kingdoms for longer than any one person can remember. Along the riverbank, tall reeds bend slightly in the breeze. The air is still warm from the day, but the sharp heat has begun to fade. The ground holds the memory of the sun. Sand, brick, stone, and packed earth release their warmth slowly, as if the whole land is breathing out. Somewhere nearby, a heron stands in the shallows. It is almost motionless. One thin leg hidden beneath its body, its long beak pointed toward the water. The bird waits with the patience of something that belongs to this place more completely than any king ever could. A fishing boat glides past. It is not grand. It is not carved with royal scenes. It is not painted for ceremony. It is a working boat, made for hands that know rope, nets, wood, and water. A man at the back guides it with a long pole. Another crouches near a basket, sorting the evening catch before night settles fully over the river. Their voices are low. They do not speak as people do in the middle of the day, when work is loud and the sun leaves no room for softness. They speak in the evening way, when words come slower and silence is allowed to sit between them. Beyond the riverbank, fields stretch into the green strip of Egypt. This narrow green world exists because of the Nile. Each year, when the river flooded, it spread rich, dark silt across the land. The Egyptians called this fertile black earth Kemet, the Black Land. Beyond it lay the red desert, dry, dangerous, beautiful, and empty. One land gave grain, the other kept secrets. In the fields, the day's work is nearly done. Farmers gather tools, children move barefoot along the paths, cattle are led back from the water. A woman carries a jar balanced carefully on her head, her steps steady from years of practice. She does not rush. The path is familiar. The evening is familiar. The river is familiar. Above everything, the sky deepens. Blue gives way to violet. Violet gives way to ink, and the first pale stars begin to appear. The Egyptians watched the sky with great attention. The movement of stars mattered. The flooding of the Nile mattered. The seasons mattered. Time was not only counted, it was observed in the behaviour of the world. A star rising before dawn could signal the coming flood. The swelling river could decide whether people would have abundance or hunger. The heavens and the water were connected in ways both practical and sacred. To live beside the Nile was to live with rhythm, flood, planting, harvest, heat, coolness, light, dark, birth, death, return. Even the sun had a journey. Each evening it sank into the west, the land of the dead. Each night it passed through the hidden world, and each morning it was born again in the east. To us, sunset may feel like the end of a day, but to an ancient Egyptian, it could also be part of a cosmic voyage, repeated endlessly, faithfully, mysteriously. Now the sun touches the horizon. Its lower edge disappears behind the desert. The water loses its gold and becomes darker, cooler, more reflective. The last birds cross the sky in uneven lines, and the Nile continues moving, broad, dark, patient, carrying the night into Egypt. A line of small lamps appears along the settlement. One by one, points of fire begin to glow in doorways and courtyards. The lamps are made of clay. Some are filled with oil. Their flames are small, trembling things. But they are enough. The smell of cooking drifts through the cooling air. Bread, beer, onions, fish, herbs, smoke. Ancient Egypt was not made only of stone temples, golden masks, and royal tombs. Most people lived in houses made from mud brick, shaped from the river's own earth, and dried beneath the sun. The walls were practical, thick enough to hold back some of the heat during the day, simple enough to repair when they cracked, and familiar enough to feel like home. Imagine one of these houses now, a low doorway, a small courtyard, a grinding stone, a woven mat, a jar of water, a basket of grain, and a sleeping cat curled in a corner, perfectly convinced that all of Egypt exists for its comfort. And perhaps, in a way, it does. Cats were valued in ancient Egypt. They protected grain from mice. They kept snakes away from homes and storage rooms. But they were also connected with grace, protection, and the divine. Their calm presence in a house was not merely decorative. They belonged there, moving between ordinary life and sacred imagination, as many things did in Egypt. In the distance, beyond the houses and fields, temple walls rise in the deepening dusk. They are not yet our destination, but they wait ahead. Still, massive, quiet, their stones holding the last warmth of the day. For now we remain by the river a little longer. The last sunlight has gone. The western sky still glows faintly, but the land has entered that gentle hour between day and night, the hour when outlines soften and sound travels farther. A splash near the bank, a wooden oar knocking against a hull, a donkey calling from somewhere near the fields, the murmur of family voices, the soft movement of reeds, the low breath of the river. The Nile holds the sky, stars gather in it, and the dark water reflects them back, broken gently by the current. A boy sits near the river with his feet pulled beneath him. He is watching a small papyrus boat turn slowly in an eddy. It is only a toy, made from what grows beside the river, but he has given it a folded reed as a sail, and for a moment, in the fading light, it looks like a tiny vessel crossing a great sea. His mother calls to him from the path. He picks up the little boat, shakes water from it, and runs toward home. Behind him, the Nile continues moving. It has seen children grow old. It has seen villages become towns, towns become capitals, capitals become ruins. It has reflected the faces of priests, farmers, scribes, soldiers, queens, craftsmen, mourners, and strangers. It has received offerings, carried trade goods, flooded fields, and swallowed careless steps. It has been feared, loved, measured, praised, and depended upon. Tonight, it is simply there, broad, dark, patient. The settlement grows quieter. Doors are pulled shut. Children are called inside. The last tools are put away. The last jars are lifted from the riverbank. The day has ended, and slowly, ancient Egypt begins to enter the night. Ahead, the temple walls wait in shadow. The lamps are being lit. The gates are being closed. And the gods are being prepared for the quiet hours of darkness. So we leave the riverbank now, step by step, away from the reeds, away from the fishing boats, away from the golden path of sunset that has now vanished from the water. And we begin to walk inland, toward the temple city, where stone, smoke, incense, and silence are waiting beneath the stars. The road from the river to the temple is made of packed earth. By day, it would be busy with people carrying baskets, jars, tools, flowers, linen, offerings, and messages. But now, at night, it is calmer. The dust no longer rises in bright clouds beneath sandals. It lies low and pale under the moon. Ahead, the temple enclosure grows larger. Its outer walls are high and serious. They do not feel like the walls of a house. They feel like a boundary, a line between the ordinary world outside and the sacred world within. To the Egyptians, a temple was not simply a place where people gathered to pray. It was the house of a god. Inside, in the deepest and most protected part of the building, a divine image might rest in a shrine. The priests cared for it each day. They washed it, dressed it, offered food, burned incense, and performed rituals meant to keep order in the world. That idea was central: order, balance, truth, rightness. The Egyptians called it ma'at. Ma'at was the proper flow of things, the Nile rising, the sun returning, the stars moving in their courses, promises being kept, offerings being made, chaos being held back. A temple was one of the places where that order was renewed, and now, at night, the temple is almost silent. Its massive gate is closed. The tall pylons stand like dark cliffs against the sky. Faint carvings cover the stone. Kings offering gifts to gods, gods granting life. Sacred symbols repeated again and again with careful intention. In daylight, the carvings would be easier to see. Some might still hold traces of colour. Ancient Egyptian temples were not originally plain grey stone. Many were painted, bright with reds, blues, greens, yellows, and white. Time has taken much of that colour away, but tonight, in this quiet journey, the paint is still fresh enough to catch the lamplight in shallow lines. A priest walks along the inner court. His head is shaved, his linen is clean. Purity matters here. The temple is not entered casually. Ritual cleanliness matters. Proper words matter. Proper gestures matter. Correct timing matters. He carries a small lamp. The flame glows against his hand and lights the stone floor ahead of him. Behind him, another priest holds a vessel of incense. The smoke rises in a pale thread, then spreads and thins in the cool night air. The scent is rich and dry: frankincense, myrrh, resin, wood smoke, oil. Incense was not just pleasant, it changed the air. It marked the space as sacred. It rose upward as an offering, a visible breath moving from human hands toward the invisible world. Near the entrance to the great columned hall, the columns stand in rows. They are enormous, shaped like bundles of papyrus or lotus plants, architecture turned into a stone memory of the Nile marshes. Their painted tops disappear into shadow, and in the dimness, the hall becomes a forest made by human hands. The temple remembers the river. Even here, away from the bank, the Nile is present, in the shape of the columns, in the offerings carried from its fields, in the flowers placed before shrines, in the water used for ritual washing, in the calendar of festivals, and in the stories of the gods. Everything leads back to the river eventually. A door opens quietly. A small group of priests passes through, moving deeper inside. The deepest sanctuary is not open to everyone. Ordinary Egyptians may come near temples. They may take part in festivals. They may present offerings in outer spaces. They may watch processions when the god's image is carried out. But the innermost rooms belong to ritual specialists and to the divine presence. For most people, the gods are close, but also distant. They are in the temple, in the sun, in the river, in the sky, in household shrines, in amulets, in animals, in birth, in death, in danger, and in protection. Religion is not a separate corner of life here. It runs through life, like a thread through linen. Outside the main walls, the city is quieter now. A baker covers the last of the bread. A potter stacks finished vessels near a wall. Somewhere, a scribe rolls up a piece of papyrus and ties it carefully. Writing is a skill, and a valuable one. The written word can record grain, taxes, prayers, names, contracts, stories, and royal commands. A name especially matters. To be remembered is to continue. This is one reason Egypt built so much in stone. Mud brick belonged to daily life. It was shaped by hand, dried beneath the sun, used for houses, walls, storage rooms, and workshops. And eventually, it returned to earth. But stone resisted. Stone said, "Remember this king, remember this god, remember this offering, remember this name, remember this moment." The temple walls are full of names carved inside royal cartouches, names of gods, names of places, names of victories, names of rituals. At night, the carvings do not shout, they wait. A soft wind moves across the open courtyard. It carries the faint smell of the river, even though the Nile is now behind us. It also carries the scent of flowers from the temple gardens, lotus blossoms perhaps, or blue water lilies that close with the evening. The Egyptians loved fragrance. Scent was part of cleanliness, beauty, ritual, memory, and status. Perfumed oils protected the skin from dryness. They cooled the body, they pleased the senses, they honoured the gods, and they followed the dead into the tomb. In Egypt, perfume was not a small luxury. It was a language. A person might be remembered by the scent of oil in their hair, by the smell of incense in a temple, by resin sealed inside a tomb, by the fragrant preparations used in burial. Scent reached places that sight could not. It lingered after footsteps faded. The temple at night is full of lingering things: smoke, oil, stone warmth, paint, dust, water, silence. A guard stands near the gate. He leans on a staff, not quite bored, not quite alert. Night duty requires patience. The temple must be protected. But nothing dramatic is happening. No invading army approaches. No thief climbs the wall. No omen tears open the sky. Only night. Only the steady work of keeping sacred things safe. From the roofline, the stars are clearer now. The Egyptians studied stars not only as lights in the sky, but as part of timekeeping, navigation, ritual, and belief. Some tomb ceilings showed star patterns. Some temples were built in conversation with the heavens. The night sky was not empty. It was a ceiling of meaning. Imagine standing there now, inside the temple enclosure, looking up. Above you, stone walls. Beneath you, paved courts and packed earth. Around you, columns like reeds. Before you, closed doors. And above it all, the same stars shining over the desert and the Nile. The world feels held together, not quiet because nothing matters, quiet because everything does. Somewhere inside, a final ritual is completed. The god has been honoured. Food offerings have been placed. Words have been spoken in the correct order. Doors have been sealed. Lamps burn low. The priests withdraw. Their footsteps fade across the stones. Outside the temple, the city continues its softer nightlife. People do not vanish just because the sun has gone. They sit on roofs. They talk in courtyards. They prepare for sleep. They tell stories. They listen to insects. They check doors. They put children down on mats. They look toward the river and judge tomorrow's work by today's heat. And perhaps one person, passing near the temple wall, pauses for a moment. Not long, just long enough to smell the incense drifting over the wall, just long enough to feel that the gods are near. Then they walk home beneath the Egyptian stars. We follow the scent now, from temple smoke to fragrant oils, from sacred incense to daily perfume, from the house of the gods to the houses of the living. The night carries us into the world of scent, beauty, medicine, memory, and the quiet rituals of ordinary life. In a small house near the temple district, a lamp burns beside a low table. Its flame is not strong, but it is steady. It throws a soft orange light across clay jars, folded linen, a wooden comb, a polished bronze mirror, and a small stone vessel filled with scented oil. A woman sits on a woven mat. Her day has been long. Perhaps she has helped grind grain, prepare food, care for children, manage household stores, visit the market, or oversee the quiet work of the home. Life in ancient Egypt changed greatly depending on wealth, status, and place, but night brought some common needs to almost everyone: water, food, rest, cleanliness, protection, sleep. She dips her fingers into the oil. The scent is floral, warm, and faintly resinous. It might carry the softness of lotus, the depth of myrrh, or the clean richness of oils pressed from plants and seeds. Egyptian perfume was often oil-based. It clung gently to the skin and hair, and in the heat of the day, it released its scent slowly. Even now, in the cooler night air, the fragrance remains, soft, close, personal. She touches the oil to her wrists, her neck, her hair. This is not only vanity. In a hot, dry climate, oils could soften the skin. Fragrance could mask the odours of labour and heat, and scent could belong to beauty, medicine, ritual, status, and memory. The Egyptians cared deeply about appearance. They wore linen, jewellery, beads, rings, collars, amulets, cosmetics, and carefully arranged hair or wigs. They painted their eyes with kohl, not only because it was beautiful, but because beauty, protection, health, and sacred meaning often lived close together. The body was not treated as something separate from the soul. Care for the body mattered in life, and care for the body mattered after death. This is one reason perfume appears again and again in Egyptian culture. It belongs to the living, but it also belongs to temples and tombs. It touches the skin of a woman in her home. It rises as incense before a god, and it is placed with the dead for the journey beyond this life. Scent crosses boundaries. A child sleeps nearby. His breathing is slow. His hand rests beside his face. Around his neck is a small protective amulet, perhaps shaped like an eye, a scarab, a god, or another symbol meant to guard him through the night. Childhood in the ancient world was fragile. Families knew this. Protection was not an abstract idea. It was woven into daily habits, into objects, into prayers, into small gestures of care. A household shrine sits in a corner. It may be simple, a small figure, a bowl, a few offerings, a place for quiet words. Not every sacred space is monumental. Not every ritual needs a priest. Some are domestic, private, and deeply personal. Outside, a neighbour laughs softly. Someone is telling a story on a rooftop. Roofs are useful places at night. When houses hold the day's heat, the roof can be cooler. Families might sit there, talk there, work there, and sometimes sleep there, beneath the open sky. The stars are bright above the flat roofs. The city is not silent, but it is calm. There are dogs barking now and then, a donkey shifting in its sleep, a door creaking, the dull sound of a jar being set down, footsteps in a narrow lane, the rustle of linen, the soft scrape of a stool across the floor. Daily life continues in small sounds, and over it all, the scent of oil, smoke, bread, and river mud lingers in the cooling air. In another house, a man counts measures of grain by lamplight. He works carefully. One mark, then another, then another. Grain is not just food. Grain is wealth. Grain is tax. Grain is wages. Grain is survival stored in baskets and sealed rooms. Bread and beer are the foundation of daily life, and because supplies matter, records matter. A scribe's skill can turn goods into numbers, labour into lists, fields into measurements, and promises into marks on papyrus. Writing is practical magic. It fixes speech into form. It lets a command travel farther than a voice, and it lets a name survive the mouth that spoke it. A young apprentice watches his teacher make signs. His eyes are tired, his back aches a little, but he keeps watching. The reed pen moves with quiet confidence. Each sign has shape, meaning, sound, memory. Egyptian writing is not a simple thing. It is beautiful, demanding, and powerful. Some signs look like birds, some like reeds, some like water, hands, eyes, snakes, baskets, seated figures, small pieces of the world, turned into language. The apprentice makes a mistake. His teacher corrects the line, not angrily, just firmly. The boy nods. He will try again. In a land where names matter, learning to write a name is no small thing. Outside, the smell of perfume and cooking smoke mixes with the smell of damp river mud. The city is made of layers: work, ritual, family, beauty, hunger, comfort, ambition, habit. A merchant closes his storage room for the night. Inside are jars of oil, bundles of linen, baskets, beads, and perhaps goods brought from far beyond Egypt: cedar from the north, incense from distant lands, gold from the south, stone, wine, copper, ivory, stories. Egypt is not alone in the world. It receives, it sends, it trades, it listens, it changes. But tonight the goods are still. The merchant checks the door. He trusts the gods, but he also trusts a good latch. That is wise. The gods are powerful, but so are thieves with practical schedules. The lane outside is narrow between mud brick walls. Moonlight touches the upper edges. A cat moves along the wall with complete confidence. It pauses, looks down, as if judging the entire human species, then disappears over the far side. Farther away, in a wealthier house, servants prepare a sleeping room. The linen is finer here. The furniture is better made. There may be painted decoration on the walls, carved stools, jewellery boxes, vessels of scented ointment, and folded cloth kept clean from dust. The wealthy can afford more fragrance, more cosmetics, more imported materials, more elaborate clothing, and more careful preparation for death. But even in wealth, night reduces things. A lamp is still a lamp, a tired body is still tired, and a person still lies down and enters darkness alone. The Egyptians understood that sleep resembled death in some ways, but sleep also promised return. Each night, a small surrender. Each dawn, a small resurrection. The sleeper closes their eyes. The world disappears. And then, if all is well, light returns. Perhaps this is why evening feels so important. The work of the day closes. The body is cleaned. Oil is applied. Offerings are made, doors are shut, children are gathered, and stories are told. A grandmother begins one now. Her voice is low enough not to disturb the household, but clear enough for the children near her mat to listen. She speaks of a time when the world was new, when gods moved more openly, when the Nile rose by divine rhythm, and when the sun god travelled across the sky in his boat before passing through the dangers of night. The children know parts of the story already. They know when darkness comes. They know when danger appears. They know that morning will return. But they listen anyway, because a familiar story is not weakened by repetition. At night, repetition is comfort. It tells the mind, the world has done this before. Darkness has come before. Light has returned before. The lamp flame bends slightly. A draught moves through the room. The perfume on the woman's skin has warmed and softened. It no longer announces itself. It simply belongs to the air. Outside, the river continues its slow movement. Inside, the living prepare for sleep. But beyond the houses, beyond the temple walls, beyond the fields and gardens, the desert waits under the stars. And in the desert, cut into cliffs and hidden beneath stone, are places made not for the living night, but for the eternal one. The western desert begins where the green land ends. The change is sudden. One moment, there are fields fed by the Nile, dark soil underfoot, irrigation channels, palm trees, reeds, gardens, and the smell of damp earth. Then the land lifts, the soil dries, the air opens, and the desert stretches outward beneath the night sky, pale, silent, and immense. To the ancient Egyptians, the West was deeply connected with death. Every evening the sun disappeared in the west. It passed beyond the visible world and entered the hidden regions of night. The dead, too, were often buried on the western side of the Nile. This was not random. It was meaning built into the landscape. The west was where the day went. The west was where the dead went. And if the journey was prepared correctly, the west was also where renewal could begin. We walk slowly now. The city is behind us. The temple is behind us. The river is still visible in the distance, a dark ribbon under the moon. But the sounds of daily life have faded. Here, the silence is larger. Desert silence is not empty. It has texture. The faint movement of sand against stone, the distant call of a night bird, the small shift of gravel beneath a sandal, the wind passing over rock faces that were already ancient before many famous kings had even been born. Ahead, a tomb entrance lies cut into the hillside. It is not open in the way a house is open. It feels guarded by the earth itself. A dark doorway in pale stone, quiet, still, waiting. Tombs were not made as empty monuments. They were made as protected spaces for the dead, places filled with goods, images, prayers, and instructions, meant to help a person continue beyond this life. For the Egyptians, death required preparation. The body mattered. The name mattered. The heart mattered. The tomb mattered. Offerings mattered. Memory mattered. This was not because Egyptians were gloomy people obsessed with death. In many ways, they were obsessed with life continuing. They wanted food, drink, family, music, gardens, fields, sunlight, and identity. To endure beyond the grave. Their tombs often showed the world as they wished to preserve it. Banquets, boats, harvests, marshes, animals, servants, offerings, and scenes of calm abundance. A painted wall inside a tomb was not only decoration, it was a kind of promise. There will be bread, there will be beer, there will be cool water, there will be linen, there will be music, there will be your name. You will not be forgotten. We step inside carefully. The air is cooler within the rock. The outside world softens behind us, and a small lamp reveals colour on the wall. Deep red, warm yellow, black outlines, white linen, blue water, green plants. Figures stand in profile. Their eyes are large and calm. Their hands hold offerings, tools, flowers, or staffs. Birds rise from painted marshes. Boats glide through painted water. Servants carry baskets and jars. A table is piled with bread, fruit, meat, and vessels of drink. The scenes are orderly, not because life was always orderly, but because the tomb is trying to make it so. Chaos belongs outside. Inside, everything is named, placed, represented, preserved. At the far side, a figure sits before offerings. This is the tomb owner, shown not as a fading body, but as a person prepared to receive what is needed. His clothing is clean. His posture is composed. His image is strong. The tomb insists on dignity. In a smaller painted scene, workers harvest grain. Their bodies bend in repeated motion. One cuts stalks, another gathers bundles, another drives animals across the field. The image is full of activity, but because it is painted and still, it feels strangely peaceful. Work has become eternal, but not hurried. Labour has become memory, but not noise. Nearby, a painted boat travels through papyrus reeds, and once again, the Nile returns. Even here, inside the desert tomb, the river is present, in the painted water, in the green plants, in the offerings, in the hope of life continuing. The afterlife imagined by many Egyptians was not a cold and empty place. It could resemble the best parts of Egypt itself. Fertile fields, flowing water, abundant food, proper order, family, light, and peace. Death did not erase the geography of love. It carried it forward. A row of hieroglyphs runs above the painted scene. The signs are careful, elegant, and full of meaning. Some are birds, some are reeds, some are hands, eyes, waterlines, baskets, snakes, beetles, and seated figures. They are pictures, sounds, ideas, and sacred marks, all at once. To someone trained to read them, they speak across centuries. To us, even when we cannot understand every sign, they still feel alive. Perhaps because they were made to resist silence. In many tombs, the dead depended on the living. Family members might speak their names, bring food, pour water, leave offerings, return on special days. But tomb paintings and inscriptions offered another kind of survival. If the real bread stopped coming, painted bread might still remain. If the real beer was no longer poured, painted jars might still stand full. If descendants forgot, the walls remembered. The tomb is a machine of memory, a gentle one, a beautiful one, and, in its own way, a desperate one. Because beneath the gold, the stone, the ritual, and the painted colour, there is a very human fear. Please do not let me vanish. That fear is not ancient, it is simply human. Outside the tomb, the stars burn over the desert. Inside, a painted ceiling may show stars of its own, a sky made by hand, a night that never changes. Some Egyptians hoped to join the imperishable stars, those lights in the northern sky that seemed never to set. To become one of them was to become lasting, unfading, beyond the reach of ordinary time. A person's journey after death could be imagined in many ways across Egypt's long history. There were hidden roads, gates to pass, names to know, dangers to avoid, spells for protection, gods to face, and darkness to cross. One of the most famous ideas is the weighing of the heart. The heart was believed to hold a person's character, their choices, their truth, their wrongs, their kindness, their life. In the judgment scene, the heart was weighed against the feather of Ma'at, the feather of truth, balance, and order. If the heart was balanced, the person could continue into blessed existence. If not, their journey ended. It is a serious image, but also a revealing one. The Egyptians did not imagine that wealth alone solved everything. A beautiful tomb was not enough. A powerful name was not enough. A grand title was not enough. A person's moral life mattered. Words mattered. Actions mattered. Balance mattered. In the quiet tomb chamber, that thought settles softly. Not like a threat, more like a question whispered through stone. Was your heart light? A jar stands near the wall. Perhaps it once held oil, wine, water, or something placed here for the dead. In richer burials, tomb goods could be elaborate. Furniture, jewellery, clothing, games, tools, cosmetics, amulets, food, and small comforts from the world of the living. In poorer burials, the offerings were simpler, but the hope was not so different. To provide, to protect, to remember, to continue. The great royal tombs were only the grandest version of a wider belief. Kings received monumental preparation, but ordinary families also cared for their dead. They wrapped bodies, spoke names, brought offerings, and kept bonds alive. The dead were not simply gone, they were elsewhere, still connected, still remembered, still part of the moral and emotional world of the living. We move back toward the tomb entrance. The small lamp flame flickers. For a moment, the painted figures seem to move, not because they are alive, but because light is unsteady. A bird's wing trembles. A servant's arm shifts. The painted river ripples across the wall. Then the flame steadies again. Everything is still. Outside, moonlight lies bright on the desert. The city lights are small in the distance. The Nile is dark and quiet below. Somewhere far away, people sleep in mud brick houses, wrapped in linen, their dreams rising and fading like smoke. Behind us, the tomb returns to darkness. Its paintings wait. Its names wait. Its offerings wait. And the West, the land of sunset, holds its silence. But our journey through the night is not finished. There is another world we have not entered yet. Not the world of temples, not the world of homes, not the world of tombs. The world of the river after midnight, the Nile beneath the stars. When boats move quietly, water reflects the heavens, and Egypt seems suspended between life, death, and dawn. Midnight settles gently over the Nile. The heat of the day has finally loosened. The air above the river is cooler than the air over the fields. A thin mist gathers in places where the water moves slowly near the banks. Reeds stand black against the reflected sky. The river at midnight is different from the river at dusk. At dusk it belongs to return. Boats coming home, workers washing, children called back from the bank, animals led away from the shallows. But at midnight, the river belongs to passage. A small boat moves through the dark. Its sail is lowered. Its wooden body creaks softly. The men aboard speak rarely, and when they do, they keep their voices low. Sound carries over water at night. A careless word can travel farther than intended. One man watches the current, another watches the bank. A third sits near a bundle of goods covered with cloth. They may be travelling for trade, for temple business, for an official errand, or simply to reach another settlement by morning. The Nile is Egypt's great road. Long before engines, rails, or modern highways, the river connected the country. To move north, a boat could follow the current. To move south, it could use the wind. The Nile carried grain, stone, soldiers, letters, statues, timber, cattle, officials, pilgrims, and stories. It tied the land together. Tonight, it ties silence to silence. The boat passes a dark shape on the bank, a shrine perhaps, a storehouse, a cluster of palms, a sleeping village. From one house a lamp still burns. Someone is awake. Perhaps a mother with a restless child. Perhaps a guard. Perhaps a scribe finishing work by poor light. Perhaps an old man who has slept enough and now sits alone, listening to insects and water. The boat continues. Above it, the stars are dense. Without modern city lights, the ancient sky would have been overwhelming. The Milky Way could stretch like a pale road overhead, a river above the river, a path of light over a path of water. Night was not simply darkness, it was a map. The moon lays a broken line across the water. The oar touches that line and breaks it again. On the far side of the river, the desert cliffs rise darker than the sky. Somewhere among them are tombs, sealed chambers, painted walls, and sleeping dead. On this side, closer to the fields, the living rest in houses made from Nile mud. Between them runs the river, holding both worlds apart and together. That is one of the strange beauties of Egypt. The living and the dead were separated by geography, but they remained within sight of one another. The village could see the desert where ancestors rested. The tomb could face the land of cultivation, and the Nile ran between them, like a boundary and a connection. A night bird calls. The men in the boat look up briefly, then return to their silence. In another vessel, farther downstream, a priest may travel with offerings for a festival. In another, a family may carry goods to relatives. In another, a fisherman may check his traps by touch. We do not see them all. We only sense them, as small movements in the dark. Egypt at night is not empty. It is reduced to essentials: water, stars, breath, wood, stone, memory. The river widens. A faint breeze touches the surface. The boat's cloth covering shifts slightly. One of the men adjusts it and ties the rope again. The knot is made by habit. His hands know what to do without needing thought. Most of history is like that. Not speeches, not monuments, not battles, but hands doing familiar work. Hands tying rope, hands grinding grain, hands lighting lamps, hands washing linen, hands painting tomb walls, hands carving names, hands mixing perfume, hands steering boats beneath stars. These hands rarely enter royal records, but they built the world those records describe. The boat drifts onward. The current does its quiet work. The stars remain above, and the Nile carries the night forward. A temple appears on the bank. From the river, it looks almost unreal. Its walls are pale in the moonlight. Its pylons stand still and huge. The flagpoles near the entrance are dark lines against the sky. No festival crowd fills the court now. No bright procession emerges from the gate. No drums, no chanting, no movement of hundreds of feet across the stone. But the building still has presence, even in silence, especially in silence. Temples were often placed in relationship with the landscape: river, horizon, sun, stars, processional roads, sacred directions. All of these could matter. Egyptian sacred architecture did not simply occupy space, it spoke with it. A temple could face the river, answer the sky, catch the first light of a certain day, stand where land, water, and belief met one another. The boat passes slowly. One of the men murmurs a short prayer, not loudly, not theatrically, just enough. In the ancient world, small prayers are practical things. A person does not need to be a philosopher to understand danger. Boats can sink, illness can come, officials can be cruel, crops can fail, children can die, snakes can hide where hands reach. The world is beautiful, but it is not safe. So people ask for protection, from gods, from ancestors, from amulets, from habit, from luck, from anything that might listen. The boat moves on. The temple slips behind them. Now the riverbank becomes quieter again. Date palms lean over the water. Their fronds whisper when the wind moves through them. The smell here is green and damp, with a faint sweetness from plants along the bank. A crocodile might live in such waters. The Egyptians knew the danger well. They also gave divine meaning to the crocodile through the god Sobek, a god connected with power, fertility, and the force of the Nile. As often in Egypt, danger and divinity could share the same shape. But tonight we see no crocodile, only the suggestion of deep water, only the dark surface of the Nile, only the reeds moving softly in the moonlight. The boat reaches a calmer stretch. The men let it drift for a time. No one speaks. The current does the work. This is the part of the night when thoughts become slower. The body understands that nothing more can be done until morning. Plans can wait. Worries can wait. Even kings must wait for dawn. Imagine leaning back in the boat. The wood beneath you is hard, but the air is soft. The stars seem impossibly clear. The Nile rocks you with movements so small, they are almost not movements at all. Somewhere far away a dog barks once, then silence returns. You smell water, rope, wood, and faint oil from the lamp. You hear insects at the bank. You hear cloth moving in the breeze. You hear the river against the hull. And above you, the sky turns slowly. The Egyptians imagined the sun travelling through the hidden world at night, crossing darkness, facing danger, moving through unseen regions, before rising again in the east. This gave shape to night. Darkness was not only an absence of light, it was a journey, hidden from ordinary sight. And perhaps that is why this midnight river feels like more than a river. It feels like a path through the unseen. The boatmen do not need to say this. They feel enough of it. One of them closes his eyes for a moment, not fully asleep, not fully awake. The boat drifts. The river carries it. The stars watch. And slowly, almost without being noticed, midnight begins to lean toward morning. There is no sign of dawn yet. Not clearly, not in the sky, not on the water, not in the sleeping houses along the riverbank. But the deepest part of night has passed. The air is cooler now. The silence feels older. The world seems held in a dark blue stillness. The boat drifts onward. The men aboard do not speak. One watches the water. One rests with his back against the cargo. One keeps a hand near the rope, not because anything is wrong, but because habit does not sleep easily. The river carries them, slowly, quietly, patiently, and somewhere beyond the bend, the eastern horizon waits. Before dawn, Egypt is at its quietest. The first lamps have burned low. The last storytellers have fallen silent. The temple gates remain closed. The tombs remain sealed in the western cliffs. The fields are dark. The rooftops are still. But the world is not asleep in the same way it was a few hours ago. Something has shifted. There is a softness in the darkness now, a faint tension, a quiet knowing. The body senses morning before the eyes can see it. A rooster calls from a village, then another. A dog lifts its head. A child turns in sleep. A woman wakes before the rest of her household and sits up slowly in the dark. The day has not begun, but preparation has. In ancient Egypt, morning was not only a time, it was a return. The sun would come back from the hidden world. Light would cross the land again. The river would shine. The temple would open. Fires would be lit. Bread would be made. Fields would call workers back. Scribes would unroll documents. Boats would raise sails. Markets would stir. Life would resume, because the order of the world had held for one more night. In the temple, priests begin to wake. Ritual must meet the dawn. Water is prepared. Linen is arranged. Incense waits to be burned. Doors that were sealed in darkness will soon be opened, in the proper order, with the proper words, at the proper time. The god's image will be approached with reverence. Offerings will be presented. Smoke will rise. The sanctuary will breathe again with lamplight and prayer. The temple does not simply open like a shop. It awakens. Outside, the first colour touches the eastern sky. Not gold yet, not pink. Only a slight thinning of the darkness. A softer edge above the horizon. A suggestion. A promise. The Nile receives it first. A faint grey line appears on the water. Reeds become visible as individual stems instead of black shapes. The outline of a boat returns. The curve of the bank returns. A man standing near the river is no longer only a shadow. He becomes a body, then a face, then a person, with a jar in one hand and sleep still in his eyes. The river has carried the night. Now it carries morning. In a house near the water, a woman begins grinding grain. The sound is low and rhythmic, stone against stone, back and forth, back and forth. It is one of the oldest sounds of settled life. Not dramatic, not grand, but necessary. Bread begins here, in repeated movement before sunrise. A child complains softly at being woken. This too is ancient. No civilization, however glorious, has ever defeated the basic human objection to getting up early. The mother says something quiet but firm. The child rises. Nearby, a cat stretches with theatrical seriousness, as if it has personally guarded the household from cosmic collapse. Perhaps it has. One should not dismiss a cat's opinion of itself. History suggests they rarely do. Outside, the sky brightens. The western desert, which held the dead through the night, becomes visible again. Its cliffs take on a pale rose colour. Tomb entrances and paths remain still. The dead do not wake as the living do, but in Egyptian belief, they too are tied to cycles of renewal. Names, offerings, prayers, images, memory, all helping them continue. The dead are not simply gone, they are elsewhere, and morning reaches them too. And now, our night in ancient Egypt begins to fade. The river is still moving, the reeds still bend softly at the water's edge. The temple walls are growing lighter in the first breath of morning, and far away, in the western desert, the tombs remain quiet beneath the pale sky. For one night we have followed the Nile, past small boats and sleeping villages, past lamps glowing in mud brick homes, past incense drifting through temple courts, past perfume, painted walls, ancient prayers, and names carved carefully into stone. And through it all, the river continued, slowly, patiently, carrying life through the narrow green land between the desert and the sky. If you are still awake, let your thoughts rest there for a while, beside the Nile, under the stars, in the cool air before dawn. There is nothing more you need to do now. The story can keep moving without you. The river can carry the rest. Thank you for spending this quiet night in ancient Egypt. Sleep well, and when you are ready, history will be waiting.